The narrator's life began to fall apart when their sister introduced a new boyfriend to them. Emma's boyfriends were constantly changing, and the narrator had learned not to get too invested in her sister's relationships. When Emma called the narrator to introduce Liam, she barely reacted and told herself another name. The narrator was excited to meet Liam but was hesitant to introduce him to the family. Liam was tall, broad-shouldered, and had a strong jawline and a confident smile. He was comfortable, secure, and charming. Emma was excited to introduce Liam to the family, and the narrator was surprised by his demeanor. Liam was relaxed, easygoing, and seemed to be a good fit for the family. Emma led most of the conversation, and the narrator found himself wanting to talk to Liam to know more about him. Liam was different from other people, paying attention to their conversations and asking genuine questions. They were talking about movies, music, and work, and Liam was sharp, witty, and knew how to keep a conversation going. The narrator realized that Liam was not just getting along with Emma's boyfriend, but also liked him as a friend. There was something deeper and undeniable about Liam, and for the first time, the narrator was not sure if this was a good thing. As dinner continued, Emma mentioned an upcoming trip to a cabin upstate, and the narrator was left feeling uneasy about Liam's relationship. The protagonist is trying to process the strange pull she feels towards Liam, a man she hasn't felt a connection with in a long time. After dinner, Emma insists they stay for drinks, and they all sank into the couch talking and laughing late into the evening. At some point, Emma curled up beside Liam, resting her head on his shoulder, and she felt a sharp pang in her chest. The more time they spent around Liam, the more she realized that this was not just a passing thought, but something real and dangerous. Emma was beyond happy that Liam and she got along so well, but she couldn't shake the feeling that something had shifted. Liam's conversations became more natural and casual, and the protagonist began to notice things she shouldn't notice. One night, Liam called her and asked her to come out for a drink. She hesitated for a moment before responding, but eventually decided to go out. They met at a bar near Liam's place, where the music wasn't too loud and the drinks were strong. The protagonist is left feeling a sharp pang in her chest, wondering what the relationship means yet. The more time they spend together, the more she realizes that something has shifted between them. The narrator and Liam, a friend, have a difficult day at work and are unsure about their relationship. Liam is hesitant to talk about their problems, and the narrator feels a pull between them. They talk for hours, and the air between them becomes charged with something neither of them wants to acknowledge. As they walk side by side, Liam grabs the narrator's arm and they sit together, unable to move. The narrator feels the warmth of Liam's touch and the unreadable expression he gives her. They swallow hard, trying to break the moment. Liam suggests they should do this again, but the narrator is worried about the danger they have come to. The narrator has been waiting for something to snap, and one night, Emma is called into work and Liam is invited to keep him company until she returns. The narrator should have said no and made up an excuse to avoid the situation, but Liam shows up at the narrator's apartment with a beer and a smile. They order food, play old movies, and let the conversation drift from one topic to another. The narrator keeps it casual at first, but eventually realizes she isn't really in love with Liam. The narrator's feelings for Liam and Emma become more intense as they continue to explore their relationship. The protagonist is watching a movie with Liam, who is sitting close to her. They are both aware of Liam's presence and the scent of his cologne. Liam sighs and doesn't look at the protagonist immediately, but after a long pause, he tells Emma that things weren't perfect. The protagonist is unsure what to say to Liam, as he seems to be thinking about something else. Liam tries to change the subject, but the silence between them becomes thick and charged with something unspoken. The protagonist's heart breaks when Liam touches her wrist and she feels the warmth of his breath. He then touches her arm, and the moment they touch, Liam's lips touch her wrist and she tries to resist him. Liam pulls back, and Liam's breath tries to linger on her skin. She swallows her chest, and Liam shook his head, running a hand through his hair. His voice is raw and shaken, and he stands up, grabbing his jacket. He leaves without saying anything, leaving the protagonist breathless. The protagonist is in trouble and doesn't know if there is any way out. Liam hasn't texted or called for days, and she hasn't heard from him. She believes it's for the best, but the memory of Liam lingers, and she understands that she is just as scared as he is. Emma is happier than ever, but completely oblivious to the mess. At lunch, the protagonist listened to her friends talk about Liam, who she thought was great. She thought avoiding him would help, but one night, Liam arrived at her door with an unreadable expression. The tension between them was instant thick, and they couldn't stop thinking about each other. Liam's eyes were clear, and she couldn't stop thinking about him. She tried to ignore it, but it was too dangerous. Liam grabbed her tightly, and they sat on the couch, with Liam hovering over her. His eyes were dark with something she had never seen before. The protagonist felt his lips trail down her neck, and her chest rose to meet his touch. Her fingers tangled in his hair, and his mouth found her collarbone. He sucked lightly at her skin, and his hands rolled down against her. They both breathed his name, and Liam froze his forehead, resting against her shoulder. Liam pulled back to look at her, and she couldn't stop him. He whispered his name, but she didn't. He kissed her again, deeper and more deeply than before. Time blurred, and Liam told her and her to keep a secret. She swallowed hard, knowing it was the only way to keep it. Liam left before the sun came up, and as she lay there staring at the ceiling, she knew things would never be the same again. The text describes a series of intimate moments between Alex and Emma, where they were constantly reminded to stop and be careful. Liam would find excuses to see them, but they would always be together, forming a secret. They would come over late at night when Emma was busy, and Liam would come over late at night. The morning after their last night together, Liam became quieter and more distant, and the text describes the fear and uncertainty that surrounded them. Liam's silence was the only answer they needed, and the text describes the feeling of being trapped in a relationship that they couldn't uncross. They paced their apartment, checking their phone and waiting for an explanation. However, they didn't hear from him until Emma called them, and the text describes the tremor in her breath. The text ends with a sharp breath and a small sound, and the text ends with Emma and Liam, who looked like they were strangers. Emma and Alex were in a heated argument about Liam's actions, which left them feeling incredibly alone. Emma was upset that Liam had betrayed her and her brother, and they had been unable to move forward. Liam was upset and tense, and Emma was shocked to see him leave. Liam apologized but was unable to do so, leaving Emma feeling a sense of guilt. As Liam left, Emma and Alex were left to wonder how they had let the situation get so far. They had a choice to either bury the past and pretend it never happened, or face the storm that followed. The choice was between letting go, knowing it was the only right thing left, or risking everything, even if it meant losing everything in the end. The weight of the situation was heavy on the protagonist, who was left to decide whether to walk away from something that felt so real, or fight for it knowing it could never truly belong to them. They had a choice to either bury the past and pretend it never happened, or face the storm that came with it. The protagonist is left to decide whether to let go or risk everything, feeling the weight of the situation still heavy on their chest.